16b.
16b.
You see online there?
And then Mishnah?
Sorry, 16b. Mishnah.
16b, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. The Mishnah is Ma Ben
Tam Lamud. Yep.
Okay.
Very simple. Ma ben Tam Lamud. What's the difference between a tam and a muad? An animal that is, hasn't yet habituated itself to violence, and an animal that has. So what's the difference? Al shatam shalom chatzi nezik megufay, muad mishalom nezik shalom minha aliyah. A tam pays half the damages, and it's limited by megufay. So it's limited to the maximum payment is the value of the aggressing animal. Whereas a muad pays nezik shalom, and it pays the me'aliyah. We'll have to see what the word aliyah means. But what it actually means in practice, it means you pay the value of the damage.
You have to make that payment on the third occurrence or on the fourth?
We'll get to it.
Oh, good.
Very good question. Very good question. Yeah, well, it's a whole parak. It's an extensive discussion exactly how to become a muad and yeah.
Wow. No subject untouched.
Okay. So Gemara. My aliyah. What does aliyah mean? Amar Balazar b'me'ula shevin chasav. It means that sort of the best of his property. They buried Chizkiah in the best of his of the graves of his ancestors, which was near the children of David. V'amar Balazar b'mayla. What does b'mayla mean? Amongst the most prestigious of the family of David. Who was that? Manenu David Shlomo. Chizkiah was buried right next to David and Shlomo. Like Baruch. Okay. So Mila sort of means the best, and I guess the point here is that the payment of damages for muad is paid out complete from the best assets, and it's not limited by the maximum value of the aggressing animal. Okay, once we're talking about the burial of Chizkiah. They buried him in a sepulcher.
Underground burial.
Sepulcher. That was filled with spices. My besamim v'zanim. There were spices and zanim. What does zanim mean? So there's two different interpretations. Rabbi Elazar Amar zine. There were multiple varieties of spices. The spices were these types of aromas that cause people to turn after adultery. That was the potency of these types of spices, aromas, whatever. Okay. Once we're talking about Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, we continue with a few other gemaras from Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani. Kikaru shucha lilachteini. They dug a shucha, a pit, to capture meat. Upachem tamnu l'raglai, and they put snares for my feet. This is Yomi talking about how the people tried to ensnare him. So Rabbi Elazar says, Shechashdu mizayna. They accused him of being with a harlot, the prostitute. Even worse, they accused him of laying with a married woman. So according to the opinion, it says that they suspected him of 1 second. That they suspected him from for being with a prostitute. This is what the verse says: Kishucha amuka zayna. A pit, a deep pit, is a prostitute. A person falls into a deep pit. But according to the opinion, it says that they suspected him of lying with a married woman. Ma'ishucha. Where do we find that a married woman's also called a pit? And the Gemara answers the obvious. Is a married woman who's having an affair with a stranger, is she not a prostitute as well? So therefore it would fit into the same verse. Now, according to the opinion that they accused Yirmiyah of lying with a married woman, this is what the verse says: You God know their plans, on me to kill me. In other words, the accusation of lying with a married woman carried the potential for capital punishment. In other words, they tried to kill Yirmiyah. But according to the opinion that says that they suspected him of being with the prostitute, my lamos, how exactly did they want to kill him? So Gemara says, they threw him into a pit of cement, mortar, which apparently had the potential to be deadly. Okay, Dorish Rava taught, my this that the verse states, you mukshalom lefanecha be'es apecha. Yirmiyah, after Yirmiyah was falsely accused of either being a prostitute or a married woman, so he prays to God, you mukshalom lefanecha be'es apecha. Stump, when in your anger, make them stumble. So what does that mean? Yirmiyah said in front of God, Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe. He said to God, these people that have accused me of something I've never committed, a severe accusation, make it the case that even when they give charity, even when they engage in what seems to be righteous behavior, the money goes to people that are not going to use it correctly. And the purpose of this is that ultimately speaking, they will not actually accomplish good in the world, and therefore they won't have the merits to be saved. Going back to the discussion of the death of Chizkiah, the Kovid Asalei b'Maisei, they performed an honor in his death. What does that mean? Melamed Shehashiva Yeshiva Al Kivrei. They had a group of students studying at the burial place of Chizkiah. Pligi bar Rav Nosson v'Rabbanon. There's a debate between Rav Nosson and the rabbis. Some say it was 3 days that they were studying Torah at his gravesite. Some say it was 7 days, and others say it was 30 days. Yeah, and this is sort of a reflection of the fact that during the days of Chizkiah, all of the Jewish people were extremely knowledgeable. They checked from the north until the south, and they did not find a kid who did not know the laws of Truma, of Truma and Tara. It's a tremendous amount of Torah knowledge at the time, and therefore to honor his death, they created this study group at his gravesite for some amount of time. They performed an honor in his death. What does this refer to? Zechizki Malach Yehudah. This refers to Chizkiah, Sheyatzu Lefanav Shloshim V'Shisha Alfei Elef Chalutze Kosef. There were 36,000 people whose shoulders were torn. And what does that mean? They were mourning over Chizkiah. 36,000 people felt the personal connection that they actually mourned Chizkiah to the extent that they ripped their clothes. And trouble you to mute your microphones. Okay, Divrei Rabbi Yehudah, it's the opinion of Rabbi Yehudah. Amar of Nechemia. Nechemia says, there were 36,000 people mourning Achav, and Achav was a wicked king. The honor they gave him was they put a Sefer Torah on his bier. But Amar, they said, the one in the casket has completed the tasks written in this Sefer Torah. In other words, he's fulfilled all of the mitzvahs. So the Gemara says, we do that today as well. So it wasn't something that was terribly unique to Chizkiah. So the Gemara says today, we'll put the Sefer Torah on somebody's casket, but we'll take the Sefer Torah out of the synagogue, but we won't place it on top of the bier. Another possibility. We'll also place it on top of the casket. We won't say the statement that the guy in the casket has fulfilled what it says in this book. Rabbi Chana said, Bahade Rav Yochanan Mishal Shmaitza. I was following Rav Yochanan to ask him a question. As he was entering the outhouse, the restroom, and I asked him the question. I asked him this question, but he didn't answer me until he completed his needs. He washed his hands, put back on his tefillin. Then he told me, actually, we'll also say the one who's in the casket has completed what it says in this scroll. We'll say that as well today. But what was unique to Chizkiah was that he actually taught the entire Torah to all of the people. And that we won't say. So the Gemara says, there's a greatness of studying Torah because studying Torah brings to action. So in other words, what would seem to be greater? If Torah brings to action, it means that action is greater than Torah. And it's more honorable to say that this guy has fulfilled the Torah than to say this guy has taught the Torah. Mm-hmm. So Gemara says, yes, you're right, but there's a catch. With regards to one's own actions, then one's own fulfillment of Torah is more important than his study of Torah. But one's teaching of Torah is more important than his own actions. Mm. And therefore, when they said that Chizkiah taught the entire Torah, that's more honorable than anything we say today. Rav Yochanan says in the name of Rav Shimon ben Yochai, might have said this at the verse states, Asherechem zerei al kol mayim. Blessed are you who plant on irrigated property. Al kol mayim. Mishalchei regel hashor v'chamor, that send the feet of the ox and the donkey. So Rav Shimon ben Yochai explains all of this allegorically. 1 second. Now, the simple explanation of this verse is sort of a blessing for those who plant and were successful in their plant, in their harvest, and that will be carried by a shor and a chamor, by a work animal, an ox or a donkey. The allegoric interpretation is as follows. Someone who engages in Torah and kindness, he merits the portion of 2 tribes. Shenemar, as the verse states, Ashrechem Zerei. Blessed are those that plant. Ve'ein Zriya el tzedakah. Zriya planting is a reference to acts of kindness, tzedakah, charity. Shenemar, Ziru lechem tzedakah, plant tzedakah, charity. The Kitzur Lefichat said, and cut, harvest according to the kindness that was in the charity. Ve'ein mayim el Torah. Water is a reference to Torah. Shenemar, Haikal tzamei. Those that are thirsty, go study Torah. Okay, and therefore, so the reference here is Ashrechem Zerechit Al Kol Mayim, those that invest in Torah and Chesed, acts of kindness. Zerech LeNachal Shnei Shvatim, they get the inheritance of 2 tribes. The 2 tribes are Shor and Chamor. The tribe that was compared to the Shor, the ox, and the tribe that was compared to the Chamor, donkey. Who is the tribe compared to the ox? Yosef Atzadik. The ben Paris Yosef and nice tzada ale shor. The daughters of Mitzrayim were sort of running after him to try to marry him. I'm sorry, Zeichel Kiluk Yosef. He merits the marriage canopy. It's really, I think it's the desirability of Yosef. Ben Paris Yosef and Sure, they all were once he became the second in command in Mitzrayim, they all chased after him to be his partner. Okay, so so that's where we see that Yosef is the reference to the ox, and he merits the blessing of Yosef, and he also merits the inheritance of Yisachar. Yisachar is a donkey that carries a burden. And that's the inheritance. That's a reference to Yisachar being like a chamor, like a donkey, and he merits the blessing of Yisachar. And chamor gorim, carrying a donkey, the Targum translates as atir b'nechasim, wealthy. Ist Amri, some say slightly differently. Oiviv noif from the fun of Yosef. His enemies fall before him like Yosef. The nations will be gored by him, to their demise. The Zoicha Libina ki Yisachar, and he'll merit wisdom like Yisachar. The Chsivim b'nei Yisachar, the children of Yisachar, Yedea Bina leitim. They understand the wisdom of the times. Ladas Mayas Yisrael, to understand what the Jewish people should do. And again, since this is getting close to Hanukkah, I have an ancestor. His name is Tzvili Melech of Diniv. His last name is Shapiro, but he actually changed his last name. It's really Langzim. Tzvili Melech Langzim. And he went to his Rebbe. He told his Rebbe that on Hanukkah, he feels like he can understand Torah like never before. So the Rebbe was the Chayz of Lublin, seer of Lublin. He told him, he said, you must be from Yisachar. Why? Because this verse, you have the wisdom of the times to know to intuit the meaning of Hanukkah. And therefore he named his sefer B'nai Yisachar. In honor of the what his Rebbe had told him. Okay. And that concludes the first parak. Now, of course, we learned about a lot about the different avos in very broad strokes. Now we get to and now we get to Ketzad HaRegel in 17a, the new parak. Ketzad HaRegel, what exactly is regel? So how does it work? A regel muedes l'shaber b'derech hilucha. Regel, the foot, is muad. It's habituated to break things as it walks. Ha-behema, an animal. What's the difference between a regel and a behema? Between a foot and an animal? We'll get to it. Ha-behema muedes lahalach kedarko l'shaber. A behema is habituated to walk and break things. Haisam miva'etes. It was kicking. This would be a tolda of Karen. Karen is intentional damage. Regel is casual damage. Or instead of kicking, something getting damaged as the animal passed casually, it kicked up some pebbles casually, and those pebbles broke something. And it broke the vessels. Okay, in other words, if it damaged intentionally or casual damage, but not directly through kicking a pebble, it's half damages. Half damages from kicking a pebble that we call tsureris. Chatzin ezek tsureris, which we'll talk about again today. We spoke about this already 4 times. Tsureris, chatzin ezek tsureris means that when the animal kicks something casually, it's an exception to the rule of full payments. You pay half payments. And it's a tradition, not something you can debate.
So it refers to the herb uses feminine for the cow.
Yeah, but it's behemoths, I guess, it's the feminine. Yeah.
So is that typical?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Why?
Not sure. Okay. Okay. Or the other scenario is if it's Karen, if it's intentional damage. It's Karen, then it's also a half payment. Dorsa ala kliva shavrosai. Sorry?
No, I just said.
Okay. Dorsa ala kliva shavrosai. It sort of stomped on a vessel and broke it casually. In other words, while it was walking. And what happened? That vessel, that broken vessel, those shards flew into another vessel. V'nafal ala kliva shavrai. And then it fell into another vessel, and it broke it. The first vessel that broke is nezik shalom, full damages. The second vessel that broke is tsureris, because it was the shards in the first one that flew into the second one. So therefore, it's half damages. The roosters, the chickens, they're muad to sort of walk around and break things. Let's say there was a widget that was tied to its foot. No, Rashi says that the word lil is literally anything that was tied to its foot, any random thing. So use the mathematician's examples. The widget. There was a widget attached to its foot, and walked, and that widget was sort of flying back and forth, and it broke something. Okay, don't ask me about this one. The animal was dancing. and as it was dancing, it was performing this little jig, it kicked up a bunch of stones, and those stones flew and broke things. Mishalem chatzin nezek, you pay half damages.
That's a pretty dangerous bird.
Yeah. So again, the key ideas here is casual damage, meaning damage that the animal does simply because it's an animal and it's walking. That is regel. You're not liable in a public domain. People in a public domain are responsible to keep their own objects from the animals. Animals have a full right to be there, and therefore they are exempt from damages. Their owners are exempt from damages. The damage we're talking about here is in the victim's domain, or a place where the victim had a right to be, and the ox did not have a right to be. And the damage that happened was, again, casual damage, where it doesn't appear the animal had any intention of breaking anything. It's just an animal that walks around and necessarily breaks things. If the damage was intentional, sort of the animal, the animal was stomping around, and finally it saw some big barrel, it went right over and knocked it down in its anger. It wasn't in the animal's pathway at all. That's Karen. Chatzin, that's half damages. And you're chayiv and Rosh Hashanah in the public domain.
You're liable for.
Karen is liable in public domain. Half damages. So for example, if you have a big barrel in the street, maybe you shouldn't have a barrel in the street. It's probably not a smart thing to do. But an animal comes along and takes its horns and knocks it down deliberately. It seems to be deliberate, at least. It's not like this wasn't a casual walk around and it's sort of pushed at, as on its, from its side. That's not what happened. It was the animal took its horns, knocked it down. Chatzin has half damages. Finally, the bull in the china shop. The bull in the china shop is depends, right?
Shouldn't be there. Yeah.
It shouldn't be there. So the Karen part, the part that was deliberate, is chatzin nezek. The part that was casual, full damages. So if the thing was the bull was swinging its horns back and forth and looking to crack everything, then you'd pay half damages. But if it was sort of just took a stroll in the china shop, and that resulted in a carnage left behind, that would be nezek shalom, full damages. And the reason for this, like we pointed out many times before, is that it's very easy you're expected to watch your animal from things that you can expect your animal to do, which includes casual damage. What you're not necessarily expected to do is watch your animal from intentional damage, which seems to be an unusual event. The key component of Karen is that it's unusual. It's a key feature. And finally, we have tzroros. Tzroros is a type of regel. Regel, again, casual damage that's done without intention to do damage. It's sort of very common. This is how an animal behaves. Tzroros is where an animal engages in regular normal behavior, and it kicks up some stones, and those stones go ahead and do damage. And not just stones. If the animal was, let's say, the bird had a widget attached to its foot, and it was sort of dancing around, and it sort of broke things in the china shop. Also, you are chayev chatzin nezek because it's tzroros. Amar le Ravina l'Rava, top of 17b. Ravina says to Rava, Hainu regel, hainu behema. The Mishnah says regel, then it says behema. Don't you think that a behema has a regel, an animal has a foot? Why exactly is the Mishnah repeating itself twice? Amar le, so he said to him, Tana avos, the Tana toldos. Regel is the av. The av is a foot, because typically the casual damage of an animal is with its foot. But there are other types of damages from an animal. For example, let's say, from the flanks of the animal, it sort of pushes, lightly, without intention of doing damage. Though that's a toldo, that's a child. In other words, that's included under regel, but the prime example is the foot, because that's typically the type of casual damage that happens. That's why it's repeated twice. Okay, El Mayat, if that's the case, Seifa, the end of the parak, later on in this parak, Tiktani Hashem Muedes, Habehem Muedes. We talk about Shane. Shane is a tooth. What is a tooth? The type of damage of a tooth is pleasurable damage. In other words, the animal consumes something for its own pleasure. Okay, and it says Shane Muedes, and then it says same thing, Behem Muedes. And my Avis my Tolasik, over there's no Av and Tolda. An animal eating is the same as Shane. It is Shane. Shane is a tooth, meaning eating. There's no father and son over there. There's no child of the. They're both the same thing. They're eating. So okay, it's a Hav Mahadulay Dichusa. So Rava basically responds to Ravina with a joke. And he says to him, he said to him, I answered you the first question, you go answer the second question. So the Gemara says, "A time am I?" That was a joke.
It actually says that?
Yes.
I didn't realize they acknowledged making jokes in the Talmud.
The joke was, I answer the first one, you answer the second one.
Oh.
Okay, so Gemara says, okay, well, what's really the answer? A time am I? What's the answer? Ravashi tona shein dechaya, tona shein debehemo. We talk about a wild animal and a domesticated animal. I would think the has be'ira ksiv behema in chayaloi. You sent be'ira. Be'ira is a reference to an animal, a domesticated animal. That specifically, but a wild animal. If you own a deer and you put a deer in my property to eat my grain, you'd be exempt from paying. That a wild animal is included as part of a domesticated animal. In both instances, you'd be chayav for shein.
But if you put it
Whatever, either you don't have to put it there. It's straight there.
it's straight there, then it's,
You failed to watch it appropriately, and it ended up in this guy's domain.
that was no damage. That was
So Shane is full damages. Full damages. Ihachi hodnimi boile lemisni. 1 second. Ihachi hami boile lemisni bereisha. If that's the case, that behema is sort of the main category, chaya is a secondary category, so behema should be first. It should be habehema muedes lechol sarayla, and then afterwards hashem muedes lechol sarayla. First behema, then shein, because behema refers to a domesticated animal, shein refers to a wild animal. The father is a domesticated animal. That's the specific example the Torah says. So Gemara says, Gemara says no, because chaya is included because of a drasha, because of a rabbinical exegesis. In other words, it was a derived concept. So therefore, chaviv it's preferred, and therefore and it's put first. So therefore, we put chaya before behema. Chaya is an exegetical principle. A wild animal, domesticated, that the Torah writes specifically. So we put the exegetical before what is actually specified in the Torah. If that's the case, in the story of regel, the Torah specifically talks about regel, and the other types of regel, the toldos, the children, for example, the animal pushing lightly with its flank, that's also an exegetical, and therefore it should also be listed first. So in other words, by regel, it should say habehem muedes, and then it should say haregel muedes. Samar says hachiash. There's no comparison. Over there, the eating of an animal or the eating of a wild animal or a domesticated animal is identical. They're both fathers. They're both av. So therefore, we can say because they're equal, the one that's derived comes first. However, in our Mishnah, hachashavik avatani tolda. Are you going to abandon the father, the principal, and teach the tolda, the child, first? In other words, no. The proper thing to do is first go to the father, the main principle, and then afterwards you go to the secondary principles. Yes.
Rabbi, first we're on the line that we're on.
First one line is Tony tolda, about 10, 12 lines down. Ibai Sema, another possibility. I need to select me regel, pasach beregel. Because we started discussing regel foot, so therefore we begin. But pasach regel, in other words, because we mentioned regel in the first parak, so therefore we start talking about regel first. 1 second. Yeah, because the Mishnah at the end of the first parak specifically mentions regel, so therefore regel is first. Okay, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, an animal's muad to walk normally and to break things. How exactly does that work? An animal walks into the domain of the victim. It damages with its body, with its flanks, as it's walking. It walks through sort of a narrow spot and it pushes things down. Or it had long hair, and the hair got caught in something and pulled it out and damaged it. But Ukav Shalal, Ukav I believe is a saddle. Beshlif Shalal, That is the weight, the stuff that's on the animal, the burden the animal's carrying. I'm sorry, the bit in its mouth. If it had a yoke, it was attached to a plow or something, there was a yoke around its neck. The chamar masai, or a donkey with its burden. All these things are sort of normal behavior. Mishalom nezik shalom, you pay full damages. Simcha says, tzroros. If you have, okay, 1 second. Okay. We'll explain in a moment, but Simchas sort of is, so Simchas is not a direct disagreement. Simchas is veering off topic here. And he's taking it to a different discussion, and we'll soon see how Simchas blends. The first opinion is very clear. What is regel? Regel is casual damage. Does it have to happen with the foot?
It's not, no.
No, not at all. It could be anything that's connected to the animal. It's part of the animal's normal walking. It gets damaged. That is what regel is, and you're chayav nezik shalom. Now, Simchas, there happens to be a separate thing the Brisa does not mention so far, which is called tzroros, which is also if the animal hits something which hits something else and does damage casually, that is tzroros, you pay half damages. Simchas has a different opinion about that. Simchas says that tzroros pays full damages. There is no limit, there's no difference between tzroros and regel. If an animal kicks something casually or an animal kicks a pebble that hits something, both of those instances are nezik shalom, full damages. So Simchas Omer, tzroros, if you have pebbles, or v'chazir shahayanover ba'ashba. I'm not familiar with this instance, but apparently pigs snort very, very, very loudly or something. They blow their nose very, very hard, and that nose blowing can apparently not break things. The hizik, and it does damage. I'm sorry.
Pugs.
Okay.
Pugs are worse.
The hizik, mishal nezik shalom. It causes damage. You pay full damages. So Gemara says hizik, if it does damages, pshita, that seems to be obvious. El ema hitis. The hizik, mishal nezik shalom. What happened was it blew very hard, or it blew its nose or its mouth or something, or it kicked pebbles. This boar that was hanging around the garbage, and it broke things. You're chayav nezik shalom. Guy evidently has a boar or a pig for a pet, and it causes damage. You pay chatzi nezik. You pay nezik shalom. But the type of damage Simchas is referring to is not direct; it's indirect damage. So it kicks something or blows, and the blowing damages something. And we'll discuss it more at length shortly. Other examples. So Gemara says tzroros ma'andachar shmayu. Why is Simchas talking about tzroros? Nobody mentions tzroros here. So Gemara says chasura machzor. The Brisa is missing words. This is what the Brisa means to say. Tzroros. Okay, so the Brisa gives it multiple examples of regel. The foot doesn't actually mean the foot. It means any type of casual damage. It could be with the foot. It could be with the hearers. It could be with the saddle, the bit, the yoke, the burden, the pack, etc. All that's included in regel. However, tzroros kirchayu, if it kicks pebbles as it's walking, normal behavior, then chatzi nezik, pay half damages. The chazir shayanover ba'ashba, the hit is v'hizik, b'shalom chatzi nezik. The pig that's messing around in the garbages and it kicks something and does damage, and the pebbles do damage, that the pebbles that it kicked as they were flying, b'shalom chatzi nezik, you pay half damages. Simcha says, the hit is v'hizik mishalom nezik shalom. It's indirect regel. You actually pay full damages according to Simchas. The rabbis say tzroros is half damages. Simchas says tzroros is full damages. Okay, let's continue. Tanur Rabbanan. More discussion about these differences between tzroros and regel. So regel is direct. Tzroros is indirect. We'll see a bunch of examples. You had these birds, these chickens that were flying. I think only chicken could fly, but I think it sort of,
like it could a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of could jump around with its wings and mess around. So it was jumping around from place to place. V'shavru kalim bekan fam, mishalom nezik shalom. So the wings sort of flapped on top of some fine glass cup, and the glass shattered, and Yechayev nezik shalom. However, if it was beruach shebekanfeim, if it was the wind of their flapping, so then it must have been extremely fine glass. So then Mishalman Chatzi Nezek. Then they pay half damages. Because that's service, that's indirect. Simcha says Nezek Shalom.
Silver wins it. Is it
I'm sorry?
Why is it indirect? It's still wins.
So it has to make contact. If it sends wind, that wind is like a pebble.
Oh, it sends wind.
So in other words, the
With the
wind of the flapping,
Okay.
that's the damage. So that's sort of like it sent it with a pebble as opposed to actually hitting it,
Yeah.
making contact. Simcha says it doesn't make a difference. Nezek Shalom, in either scenario, you pay full damages. Tanya Idach, another Brisa states. You have a bunch of birds that were dancing on top of a dough, Valgabe Paris, or on top of fruits. And as you can imagine, for tin food, they became unappetizing. I nikru, or they started pecking at them, and they started, literally eating the dough. Mishalom Nezek Shalom, they pay full damages. One second. Okay. Hello offer oitzeros. If, however, they put hello offer oitzeros, they it kicks up either pebbles or dirt. Mishalom and Chatzi Nezek. So then, in other words, so they didn't actually damage the dough. They put dirt on the dough. Or they put pebbles inside of it. They kicked up some pebbles, so that's
Okay.
indirect damage.
They relieve themselves on the day.
No, so relieving that would be the first. That was the first scenario,
Or
was
their
the first
jewels.
and that they're chayev.
Okay.
That's complete damages. Okay. Still says Nezek Shalom. Okay, Tanya Idach. Another brisa. Tarnigol Shalom Afriach Mimakam Lamakam. There was a bird that was sort of flying from one place to another. The Yotza Ruach Matachas Kanafa V'Shivras Akelim Shalom Chatzi Nezek, and the wind from its flaps, from its flapping, damaged vessels. Mishalom Chatzi Nezek, you pay half damage. Stomach Rabbanon. This is like the rabbis. Rava says Bishlem Sumchas Kasavar Koicha Kigufidami. According to Sumchas, I understand that the force exerted by the chicken is effectively the same thing as the chicken. There's no difference between if the chicken flaps its wings and directly shadows the vessel, or if the wind from its flapping shadows the vessel. It's effectively the same thing. El Rabbanon, according to the rabbis, Iki Gufadami, Kulanami Bar L'Shalom. If the force of its flapping, the wind, is like it's flapping itself, then you should pay full damages. And if it's not like itself, then you shouldn't pay anything. In other words, if you don't count the force from its flapping to be considered exerted by the chicken itself, so then don't pay anything. That's nothing to do with the chicken. Then Rava said it's not difficult. Of course, it's like the animal itself to damage. There's no difference between if I kick you or if I kick a pebble that kicks you. That kicks that whatever damages the shatters the glass. However, it is an accepted tradition that the payment for this type of damage is half damages. Okay, stop here. Have a great day. A little bit easier.